beyond the scope of direct.
Overruled.
And cast off is a type of blood spray that occurs when a weapon hits a blood source, correct? And then is removed from the blood source,
Yes, sir.
creating a spray of
Objection,
blood.
compound question.
Overruled.
Is that correct, sir?
Yes, sir.
There are ways to analyze cast off where it can be determined whether it's forward cast off or reverse cast off, correct?
I'm unaware.
Something you're familiar.
Yes, sir.
You recognize it when you see it.
Yes, sir.
You didn't see any cast off at this site, correct?
Most of the blood level was at a lower level, yes.
Now that blood that was at a lower level, that blood is characterized as being spatter, correct? That's a different type of blood spray.
Yes, sir.
So that blood occurs, that type of pattern occurs when a source is, there's an established blood and an item, a weapon hits that blood source and causes dispersion, correct?
Yes, sir. There are other factors as well, though. If there's something blocking the cast off from making its transition from direction, then that's going to also that can change how the blood spatter actually happens.
But that's more of a theoretical statement. That's speculation. That wasn't your observation
Objection,
here.
counsel's testified.
Sustained.
The dispersion of the blood that you observed on the site in the kitchen was very low, correct?
Yes, sir.
You observed no blood on the ceiling,
I didn't observe any, no, sir.
no blood on the walls above about 2.5 feet.
No, sir.
That's all I have, Detective. Thank you.
Thank you.
Detective Norland, since we're going to talk about blood, did your, based on your training and experience, did you see any indication that Teresa Sievers was killed anywhere else other than in that kitchen?
No, sir.
Did the blood spatter or lack of cast off indicate that Teresa Sievers was not bludgeoned to death?
Objection calls for speculation.
Well, we just talked about it.
Overruled.
Did your training experience indicate regarding the blood spatter, lack of cast off, indicate to you that Teresa Sievers was not bludgeoned to death?
No, sir.
Were there any conclusions that you made from reviewing the blood spatter that were inconsistent with the scene as you observed it that day?
With the violent damages to Miss Seaver's head and the amount of blood that was on the ground, I was surprised that it wasn't cast off on the ceiling.
But there was blood spatter in the vicinity of Dr. Sievers with her injuries?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
But once again, as you told ASA Hunter, you were surprised that there was no cast off.
Yes, sir.
Nothing further.
Is this witness to be released or retained?
He's free to go, Your Honor.
No objection, defense?
He's released.
Okay, you're free to go.
Thanks,
Thank
sir.
you, sir.
And I'd like to approach with number 24, please.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Next witness.
State calls Kevin Stout.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Would you state your name for the record, please?
My name is Kevin Stout. I go by KC
Casey. And where do you work?
at the Lee County Sheriff's Office
And how long have you worked there?
since 2003.
And in what capacity do you work at the Lee County Sheriff's Office?
I'm currently the Digital Forensic Supervisor.
And the supervisor, what is digital forensics?
We basically recover evidence from computers and cell phones, any kind of digital media that we come across.
And have you had training in the area of digital forensics?
Yes, ma'am.
What training have you had?
I got a certification. It's called a Certified Forensic Computer Examiner. It's through the International Association of Computer Investigative Specialists. It's a pretty intense 2-week course that you take in class where they're teaching you the ropes of and introducing you to all kinds of tools and equipment and how to recover data. Once you go through that class, you're assigned a coach, a mentor, and you're given 4 practical examinations where you're practicing how to recover data, how to recover dates and times of files, recovering internet histories. If there's anything that you may have missed or may have not realized how to get that kind of data, your coach that you're assigned helps you through that process. Once you pass all those 4 examinations, you're then pushed on to the next phase where you are given a digital copy of a hard drive, and you then independently recover that same data you recovered the data in the practicals. You're now doing it as an independent examination where you are running a full delete histories, the same process that you were in the practicals. Part of that, they throw in a hidden or encrypted file that you're supposed to find and locate and recover, and it ends up being a 100-question test where then you have to pass that test.
And you did all of that.
Yes, ma'am.
And so you are a certified forensic computer examiner.
Yes, ma'am.
Have you had, do you also belong to the International Association of Computer Investigation?
Sponsors the CFCE.
And as part of just that association's membership, are there a certain number of hours every 3 years that you must continue to complete to maintain even a part of that initial membership?
Yeah, to retain your certification, yes, you have to take 40 hours of training specialized in the computer forensics world. Technology changes constantly, so you're constantly having to go to classes. So they require that, yes.
Have you been trained in more than one type of software?
Yes, ma'am.
And have you been trained in the various data recovery companies?
Yes, ma'am.
And it sounds like you've been trained in cell phone data recovery.
Yes.
Were you asked, as part of your duties and responsibilities at the Lee County Sheriff's Office, to examine a number of devices pertaining to the investigation into the murder of Teresa Sievers?
Yes, ma'am.
And let me just start with this. When you receive a cell phone in the digital forensics unit, what is the first step or procedure you use when you are handed a cell phone?
We always want to no changes are made to the device, so we'll put it inside of a box called a Faraday box, and it blocks all signal from gaining into the phone, so nothing can be changed, nothing can be wiped or anything like that. It keeps it secure.
And once you place it in the Faraday box, are you able to do something to it so that you can then remove it from the Faraday box?
Yes, ma'am. When it's in there, you put it in what's called airplane mode, which your disabling your wireless connection, you're disabling your cellular connection, and we'll also take extreme measures and or you remove the SIM card out of the cell phone.
And when did you receive a cell phone on June 29th of 2015?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you follow the same procedures that you've just described for the ladies and gentlemen of the jury?
Yes, ma'am.
And during the processing of that phone, did you determine what the number of that number?
Yes, ma'am.
And was that 314-239-0173?
Yes.
Once you had removed that phone from the Faraday box, what was the next step in your processing of that phone?
I hooked it up to with a USB cable to a cell phone forensics tool called Cellbrite. Cellbrite's just one of our main forensics tools that we use to extract and copy the data from a phone in order to transfer it to our forensics workstations.
Now, when it copies the data from the phone, does it leave the data in the phone as well?
Yes, ma'am.
So when you return a phone, it's got everything it had in it when you started.
Correct.
And with Cellbrite, can you create reports that put information that's retrieved in a readable format?
Yes.
Tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury about that.
So after we copy the data, the Cellbrite has a tool where it will parse out all the data, and it goes line by line and categorizes it into, for example, if it sees a line of code where it sees that it's a text message, it'll put it in a text message category. If it's a email, it puts it in an email category. Contact goes into contact. It categorizes it for you.
And did you perform that, do a complete, what would you call it, extraction on the phone that you were handed when you hooked it up to Cellbrite?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to show you what's being marked for identification as State's Exhibit number 20. If I may approach the witness, Your Honor.
You may.
What is State's Exhibit number 25?
It's the cell phone forensics report from Cellbrite.
And
that
is
phone.
this the extraction that you obtained from device number, phone number 314-239-0173?
Yes, ma'am.
And what's in your hand? It's certainly not paper.
No, it's the digital copy that's on a thumb drive.
And so you place that digital copy on a thumb drive?
Correct.
And is this an accurate, does that thumb drive contain an accurate copy of the extraction that you performed using Cellbrite on the phone number with area code 314-239-0173?
Yes, ma'am.
Move to introduce.
Can we approach? Sure.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, I am showing to defense counsel what I've marked as State's Exhibit 25A. If you could give me just a moment, Your Honor.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. My apologies. You ready? My apologies again. We'll be with you all shortly. If you'll please not discuss the case among yourselves or with anybody else, or look up any of the people or places involved, it'll be short. Please be seated. Who else are you calling this morning?
Judge, we have, we have, we have four more witnesses in the back for this morning.
I'm going to ask both sides to go through anything you're going to try to move into evidence so we can take care of any issues like this in advance. This should not be a stalling issue, what we're doing now for the trial. I'm going to ask over lunch that you do the same thing. We'll be in recess. Let me know when everybody's ready.
All right.
Come get me, I'll be in the back. We're back on the record. We have both Assistant State Attorneys present, all four defense counsel, and Mr. Rogers.
Your Honor, I thought before the jury came back in, we could finish addressing
Yes, ma'am.
this issue. So I'm not sure who was left to speak next, but let me just, I think it was Mr. Darrow who would say whether or not he's objecting to 25A.
Judge, the state's provided me an exhibit, and they pointed out the particular text message that they're interested in, so that does make things a lot easier, and I appreciate the court giving me time to review that. Everything in this document to start with is text messages, which is hearsay under the Gale case. The state would need to establish exceptions to that. I would point out, first of all, that the ones that they're not interested in should not come in because they have nothing to do with this case. There's all kinds of different discussions involved there, including discussions of, I believe, patients and medication and things like that. As far as the specific ones that they're going to, I would first start at the first one that they're looking for, which is, it says, hopefully we can talk privately tomorrow, nothing about you. I would point that is outside of the time frame of the conspiracy that the state is alleged in the indictment. They alleged beginning April 30th of 2015. In short, I don't see any exceptions to the hearsay for that or any of the other statements with the evidence we have before us right now. Again, the state may be able to present testimony that ties that up. There's also nothing that's been presented as to whose phone this is, so it hasn't been authenticated. If you look at, I'm pointing out on page 41108, that's the discovery page number. They've highlighted one that's entitled, it's a text from, allegedly from Mr. Sievers to Mr. Wright, entitled, "Thought this was funny from Facebook, best divorce letter ever." It's clearly a joke, and if the state had included the next few pages of discovery, of this report, that includes the fact that this joke was sent to numerous people, including Dr. Sievers. So I don't see how that particular statement could possibly be in furtherance of a conspiracy.
Your Honor, I do want to start with the extraction report itself. States in that case that their holding on this issue conforms to the decision in Jean-Philippe versus State, 123 Southern 3rd, 1071, Florida, 2013. And it that in that case, the court affirmed the admission of text messages downloaded from a phone by law enforcement officers. It then talks about what Philippe was focused on. They also note in that particular is admissible because here's what the conclusion of the court starts with. Because the extraction report was not hearsay. So the extraction report of a phone is not hearsay, and that extraction report is admissible. So just in terms of the extraction report. Next, the Philippe case, which I do have a copy of for the court, if the court would like it,
Sure.
which is the case that is cited within the case provided by the defense, makes clear that these text messages are admissible. And particularly, I would refer the court to what is on page, 8 of what I've handed the court. It's on page 1080. So I think, Your Honor, that text messages are admissible. As to the comment by Mr. Darrow regarding the text message of August 29th, the state's information alleges that the conspiracy occurred between April 30th, but that text message to a conspiracy, which would be different than a part of the actual conspiracy. And so the state submits that it too is admissible.
Judge, can I respond very briefly?
Sure.
Judge, yes, what the state is saying is halfway there as far as the extraction report being not hearsay. The argument that was made, I believe, by the defendant in Gale was that there were two levels of hearsay, extraction level, and then Gill makes it very, very clear, and so does John Philippe, that just because it's an extraction report doesn't mean it automatically comes in. It just means that there's not a whole other level of hearsay there. It's not hearsay within hearsay. The conclusion in Gale is because the extraction report was not hearsay, and because the state established an exception to the hearsay that was appellant's own statements, we affirm the trial court's submission. So very key in the Gale decision is the fact that there has to be an exception for the content to come in.
Okay. Any other things that you're looking to introduce that we're gonna have a problem with the other witnesses coming forward that we need to address before I go read the Philippe case?
Your Honor, not today. And we have provided to Mr. Darrow the other specific pages from another extraction that is not being introduced today, Your Honor.
I'll review that before
At least it's not the intent of the state to call that witness today, so that Mr. Darrow would have enough pages before the next court date.
After this issue is resolved one way or the other, how much time do you have left with this witness and who's next and how long will they take?
I'm sorry, Your Honor, would you repeat that?
Irregardless of the ruling on this, how much time do you have left with this witness on the stand? Who's next and how long will they take?
Your Honor, I have, I was going to say about as much time as we've used up to this point, but that provides the court no information. At most another 15 minutes, that might be a more accurate way to phrase it. So probably another 15 minutes with this witness. Our next witness is Deb Armato from the Lee County Sheriff's Office. He will be a brief witness. The witness following him is Gladys Martinez. She was part of the crime scene that went to autopsy and recovered autopsy. Those have been showed to the defense before now. I mean, they were shown to the defense during the break, so they're aware of those items. And then we have, I believe, the items that would be referenced to him have been brought into the courtroom, and during the break, Ms. Fitzgeorge and I went through each of those items.
Okay. And you still have withdrawn your motion on 25. We're just dealing with 25A and those particular texts that were extracted, correct?
Yes, Your Honor, I withdrew it at that because if 25A, yes.
I'm asking because we were talking about two different things,
Right.
even though we were only recessed on one.
Right. What I'm saying by withdrawing it is if 25A is coming into evidence, the state will withdraw any attempt to introduce 25.
And my guess is that 25 is the whole extraction, so what I'm saying applies 100 times from this to that.
That's the complete extraction report, correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Give me a little bit of time to go read the other case you just have given me.
Thank you, Your Honor. And Your Honor, as always in any case, the state would submit that 25 is admissible, but what goes back to the jury is different than what is admitted in court. So the state did not seek to have State Exhibit 25 go back to the jury. Rather, just to have 25A go back to the jury. It just makes clear that that came from that extraction.
Yeah, 25's a thumb drive, right?
Correct.
Right, okay, yeah.
Exactly.
I really don't want the jury back there with the thumb drive.
Well,
But
they have
that's-
no way to access it,
Well, then they can
because I don't give jurors computers, and that's why I'm trying. And I don't let them take them back there either, so I was just making sure I got it.
Right.
Okay, I'll be back.
All right.
For the record, both assistant state attorneys are present, all four defense counsel, and Mr. Rogers. I've reviewed both the cases. I'm going to allow it. I think at worst, it's a statement of a party opponent, one of the conspirators, and it's not for the truth of the matter asserted. It's the first contact for allegedly setting up a.
Your Honor, I just thought we could address scheduling very quickly.
Sure.
We just wanted to alert the court where we are. We had 8 witnesses that are here today to testify. We are clearly only on witness number 2. The other witnesses we have lined up and are arriving. They are from out of state, and they will be ready to go Monday. I don't know if the remaining 6 witnesses, I expect them to be somewhat, but I don't know. We don't know how long each of these witnesses will take. Unfortunately for us, we anticipated starting trial today, and so we have been trying to catch up. We will be completely caught up by Monday of next week, making sure that everyone is here and ready to go as soon as one witness is off the stand. But we had people coming in from out of town and didn't. We do
Okay.
have 6 remaining witnesses to call.
But we'll call them and we'll see where we're at. Bring them out.
Just real quickly for purposes
Hold on a
of the
minute.
record, 25A, the court allowed in, and the state has withdrawn 25, is that where we are?
They withdrew 25, so it's 25A.
Okay.
And if we can make 25, just a court exhibit so that it's clear that the state set up the authentic.
To evidence.
Thank you.
I think I've already made all my objections.
Renewed at this time, correct?
Objection, yes.
Just clarify, you named 3, is there 6 this afternoon, or?
We had a
6
total of 8. We had a total of 8, so I think we're on our second, which would mean there are 6 remaining.
No, let's keep going. Bring them out. I'm going to ask again, did you follow my instructions, not talk about the case among yourselves with anybody else or look up any of the people or places involved? Even if you did so inadvertently, now would be the time to raise your hand. For the record, no jurors lifted their hand. My apologies for the prolonged break. That's my fault, and my apologies for the length. State.
Thank you, Your Honor. If I may approach the witness.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm handing you what's marked as State's Exhibit 25A. I think we were discussing that. Are those pages that were taken from the extraction of the phone that you were handed, phone number 314239, I think it's 0173?
Yes, ma'am.
At this time, move to introduce State's Exhibit 25A.
Renewed objection.
Yes, Judge, previous objections.
Noted for the record, we'll show it admitted.
State's Exhibit 25.
Combine your phone calls, text messages, whatever you were doing, and put it in a
So on Cellbrite, you can sort so that maybe we only see phone messages. I mean, we only see voice calls, correct?
yeah,
Be presented to you?
that's correct.
And is timeline one of those ways to ask for the data to be presented?
Yes, ma'am.
And is that what this is that we're looking at in 25A?
Correct.
Did you download every device that was obtained by LCSO during the investigation of the murder of Teresa Sievers?
No, ma'am. An abundance of devices in this case, so in order to help streamline, we were asked to eliminate items that were not used in the last 3 to 4 months. If there was no activity on those devices, we would simply put them aside, go to the next device up in the queue.
And were you able to preview those devices in order to make a determination of whether or not they had been used in the last 3 or 4 months?
Yes, that's correct.
Now, did you yourself personally download each device that was downloaded by the digital forensics unit
I don't.
that were part of this investigation that you did not download?
No, correct.
Is that standard procedure to use multiple people within the unit?
No, ma'am.
And why did that occur in this case?
Again, it was all.
Sustained.
I have no further questions, Ms. Witness.
Thanks.
I tender the witness.
Morning.
Morning.
You testified that you used Celebrite on this particular device, correct?
Yes, sir.
And Celebrite is kind of the gold standard for cell phone extractions, would you say?
I would say so, yes.
It's a fairly reliable program.
Yes, sir.
However, what Celebrite gets off a particular phone is only as good as the data that's on the phone, correct?
Yeah.
Celebrite may or may not collect data that's been deleted from a phone, correct?
It can recover deleted data, yes.
It can, but not always, correct?
Oh, correct.
And the way phone works, correct? Phone doesn't erase it when you delete something.
Correct. It's available to recover.
But that space is now marked as usable by the phone, correct?
Correct.
So that information sits there until the phone decides to overwrite it with something else, correct?
Correct.
So whether or not you get deleted data is dependent on whether or not the phone has used that space again.
That is accurate, yes.
Okay. That could happen the next picture you take, correct?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Or it could never happen.
That's correct.
So there's no real way to tell for sure whether there was data on a particular phone that's been deleted.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, that was a bad question. Let me rephrase that. So you can't tell whether the phone has covered up something that's been deleted.
I can only tell you what I'm able to recover.
Right.
What was there before, I wouldn't be able to tell you.
Okay, thank you.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Is this witness to be released or retained?
Ask the witness be released.
No objection?
Yes, Judge, I would like him possibly for the case in chief.
You're subject to recall, sir. We'll let you know if you're needed again. Thank you. Next witness.
The testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Can you please state your full name for the record?
Jonathan Armato,
And how do you spell your last name, sir?
ARMATO.
And I see you're wearing your, well, that's just that, is that a Class A uniform you're wearing?
Yes, sir.
Where is that uniform from? And you're a sworn Lee County Sheriff's deputy,
Yes, sir.
a sergeant.
Yes, sir.
How long have you been with the Lee County Sheriff's Office?
Since 2005,
And going back to the what was your status with the Sheriff's Office then?
I was a detective in the Major Crimes Unit.
And as a detective in the MCU, did you become involved in an investigation involving death of Dr. Teresa Sievers?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And Approximately, if you can recall, how many detectives got involved in that investigation?
I don't recall that.
Was it a team effort?
Yes, it was.
Definitely more than one.
Yeah, absolutely.
And during your involvement in the investigation, did you have an opportunity to recover some biological samples?
Yes, I did.
Specifically, did you have an opportunity to meet with an individual identified to you as Bonnie Sievers?
I did.
And what was the purpose of meeting with Bonnie Sievers?
It was an interview and a buckle swab collection.
And when you say a buckle selection, what's a buckle swab?
A buckle swab is, it looks like a long Q-tip that you swab the with for DNA comparisons.
And what part of the inside of a person's mouth would be swabbed?
Inside of the cheek.
Right, so you wouldn't necessarily stick a Q-tip in somebody's throat or under their tongue or something like that.
No, sir.
And did Miss Sievers comply when you took the buccal swab?
Yes, she did. She was very cooperative.
Okay. I'm going to show you what we've previously marked as State's Exhibit number 27. I've previously shown it to the defense. And ask if you recognize it. You recognize State's Exhibit number 27?
I do.
What is it?
It's a paper bag that contains the buccal swab from Bonnie Sievers.
And you place the buccal swab into the bag?
It's actually contained in a box and then in the bag.
And does the container appear to be in substantially the same condition as it was when you placed it?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, I move to admit what's been previously marked as State's Exhibit 27 and evidence of State's 27.
No objection.
We'll show it admitted.
And at the time that Bonnie Sievers' buccal swab was obtained, was she a suspect at all in the case?
To my knowledge, no.
And do you commonly obtain biological samples from people who might not even be involved in the crime?
Absolutely.
And why would you do that?
If they're known to possibly be at the house, it's a comparison technique used to also eliminate that biological substance that may have been collected at the scene.
So if there was an unknown DNA sample at a scene, then you might submit Mrs. Sievers' DNA for comparison to see if hers is the unknown sample?
Correct.
Thank you. I tender the witness.
Defense.
Thank you, Deputy Armato. Good morning. On what date did you take that sample?
I don't recall the exact date without looking at the...
Do you recall about how far into the investigation?
Judge, I object. The witness has indicated he had some difficulty answering the question. I think if he had the exhibit, he might be able to answer both of those questions. And I handed the exhibit to the clerk.
Overruled, and if she wants to refresh his memory with that, she may, or you can always do that on redirect.
Recall how far into the investigation, or would it help if you looked at the exhibit?
Either the exhibit or the property receipt.
Okay. May I approach?
Yes, ma'am.
I would need the property receipt.
When you,
That doesn't refresh your recollection, sir.
No, sir, the date's not written on the bag.
Okay.
do you normally have, excuse me, talk to you with my back to you. Did you package that up?
Yes.
Okay. Do you recall the date or
No.
that it was packaged? You didn't date it?
Objection. Asked and answered.
Overruled.
The property receipt that it was submitted with is dated.
Okay. But the actual package, are you required to put a date on that when you submit it?
Not necessarily, if the property receipt itself has the date on it.
I remain for questions.
State,
Nothing further.
is this witness to be released or retained?
He's free to go, Your Honor.
Free to go. Thank you,
Thank you, sir.
Deputy. Next witness.
State calls Gladys Martinez. Oh, yes, on the prior. $25A and $25, Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Can you please state your full name for the record?
My name is Gladys Martinez,
Can you spell Martinez for the court reporter, please?
Martinez.
Ms. Martinez, where are you currently employed?
I'm employed by the Lee County Sheriff's Office.
And in what capacity are you currently employed there?
I'm a latent examiner,
Sheriff's Office is Latents.
the Forensic Division.
How were you employed back in June of 2015?
I was a crime scene technician.
And what division is crime scene technician in?
It's in the Forensic Division also.
So you moved to a different department within forensics?
Yes.
Back in June of 2015, what were your duties?
My duties was to document, collect, and preserve evidence as a crime scene technician.
Did you have to undergo any kind of training in order to be able to be a crime scene technician?
Yes.
Could you explain to us what kind of training you had to undergo?
I have an associate's degree in crime scene technology from Edison State College. I have 480 hours of field training. Also, I have 360 hours of forensic specialty training from Florida schools.
Let me turn your attention specifically to June 29th, 2015. Did you become involved in an investigation involving the murder of Dr. Teresa Sievers at 27034 Jarvis Road?
Yes.
Specifically, at some point, Dr. Sievers was transported for an autopsy.
Yes.
Did you have an opportunity to attend the autopsy?
Yes. No.
So what was the purpose of a crime scene technician attending an autopsy?
It was to collect and preserve some of the evidence.
And did an autopsy of Dr. Sievers in fact occur?
Yes, it did.
When did that happen?
June 30th, 2015.
So it happened the next day.
Yes.
And when you attended the autopsy, were you present during the autopsy?
Yes, I was.
And did the medical examiner and medical examiner staff conduct the autopsy?
Yes, they did.
And while conducting it, were there specific items of evidence recovered from Dr. Sievers?
Yes.
Let's first talk about items recovered by the medical examiner's staff. When Dr. Sievers arrived at the medical examiner's office, was she clothed?
Yes, she was.
What was she wearing?
She was wearing a black dress, no shoes, and she had jewelry on also.
And in order to conduct the autopsy, did the medical examiner and his staff remove the clothing from Dr. Sievers?
Yes.
Specifically the dress.
Yes.
And were you present when it was removed?
Yes, I was.
I'm going to show you what's been previously marked and shown to the defense as State's Exhibit number 31. And ask if you recognize this. What is
Yes, I recognize it.
it? Okay. What is it?
It's the dress packaged in a brown paper bag with my initials and date on it.
And did you observe the medical examiner staff remove the dress from Dr. Severs?
Yes.
And when it was removed, what did they do with it?
They placed it on a sterile blue sheet.
And then once it was placed on the sterile blue sheet, what happened to it?
We photographed it, documented, and then we packaged it.
And did you package it yourself into that paper bag?
Yes.
And is the packaging in substantially the same condition as it was when you packaged it?
Yes.
Your time I moved to admit what's been marked as States 31 and evidence is States 31.
No objection. We'll show it admitted.
Did you also have an opportunity to use any, sometimes use alternative light sources to conduct an investigation?
Yes, we do.
And can you explain to the jury what an alternative light source is?
An alternative light source is a tool for crime scene technicians. Helps us enhance fibers, blood, saliva that maybe by the naked eye we can't see it.
So this is some kind of lighting that allows you to see things that you might not be able to see with your naked eye?
Yes, that's correct.
And did you have an opportunity to use an alternative light source with Dr. Severs?
Yes.
And how does that work? Now, were you still at the medical examiner's office?
Yes, we were still there.
Do they have some type of alternative lighting built in the medical examiner's office, or is that like a portable light source?
It's a portable light source.
And so something you brought with you to the medical examiner's office?
Yes.
And can you explain to the jury how it works when you use an alternative light source to examine can you explain what you did when you used an alternative light source to examine Dr. Severs?
Using the alternative light source, they dim down the lighting in the room, and then we use there's different glasses, or also it attaches to the light source. It's like a shield. They're different colors: blue, green, orange. It just depends what you're looking for. We just basically use the orange shield. And that can pick up many things. Again, saliva, semen, fibers. And it just helps to enhance something that you cannot see with your naked eye.
When you use the alternative light source, did you locate any saliva or semen on Dr. Severs?
No.
Did you locate any fibers?
Yes.
And when you located fibers with the alternative light source, did you then engage in take an opportunity to recover those fibers?
Yes.
And what's the method you use to recover fibers? What's the method you use to recover fibers off Dr. Severs?
We use clear forensic tape, and we just basically on the sticky side, we touch the areas that are of interest, and we just lift, and then we place it on a white card.
And when you say clear forensic tape, do you mean like a roll of tape of some kind?
No, it's not a roll of tape.
Can you explain to the jury what it is?
It's clear white tape. There's different sizes. I couldn't tell you the size right now. There's one like it's 8 by 5, and they just have different sizes that can go around the area of the body.
And so you you apply the sticky side to the tape to Dr. Sievers?
Yes.
And then presumably the sticky side of the tape, does that pick up stuff that might be on her?
Yes.
Okay. Why would you then stick the tape on a white card? What's the purpose of doing that?
To preserve the fibers or anything you collect, and then that will be sent off to a lab.
So if the palm of my hand was the sticky side of the tape that had fibers on it, you would then stick it on the white card to keep the stuff that you picked up from coming off the tape?
Yes.
How many tape lifts did you do on Dr. Sievers?
It was 14.
How many cards did you use to recover those tape lists?
13 cards.
I'm going to show you what's been previously marked as State's Exhibit number 29, which has been shown to the defense. And ask you if you recognize number 29.
Recognize it has my initials and date.
What is it?
It's the trace evidence. It's the 13 cards.
The 13 cards containing the 14 lifts from Dr. Sievers?
Yes, that's correct.
And did you package the item yourself?
Yes, I did.
And is the packaging in substantially similar condition as it was when you packaged it?
Yes.
Your Honor, this time I would admit what's been previously marked as State's Exhibit 29 and the evidence of State's 29.
We'll show it admitted.
Now, at some point during the autopsy process, did the medical examiner staff also recover biological samples from Dr. Sievers?
Yes.
Specifically, did they recover any kind of a blood sample from her?
Yes, did.
And when this blood sample was recovered?
Yes.
Okay. And did you observe it being recovered?
Yes.
And what did they do with the blood sample that they recovered from Dr. Sievers?
They placed it on a card and packaged it in a manila envelope.
And were you present when that happened as well?
Yes.
And what did they do once they packaged it into a manila envelope? What did they do with it?
I took custody of the stain card.
And then what did you do with the stain card after it was packaged into the manila envelope and given to you?
I placed it in a brown paper bag and also put evidence tape on it with my initials and date, showing that I took custody, and I transported it to our evidence department.
All right, I'm going to show you what's been previously marked as State's Exhibit 30. It's previously shown to the defense. And ask if you recognize number 30.
It has my,
And what is it?
it's a brown paper bag with the stain card blood sample.
And is that the stain card blood sample that you obtained from the medical examiner staff during the autopsy of Dr. Sievers?
Yes.
Your Honor, this time I would admit the blood stain card State's Exhibit number 30 and evidence is State's 30.
No objection. Show it admitted.
Okay, talking more about biological samples from Dr. Sievers. Did the medical examiner staff also remove any hair samples from Dr. Sievers?
Yes, they collected a sample of hair.
And were you present when that collection was done as well?
Yes.
And when they collected the hair sample from Dr. Sievers, what did they do with it?
They take a sterile tweezer and they just, it's no specific area of the head, they just pluck a piece of hair and he placed it in another envelope.
And did you observe him place the hair into the envelope?
Yes.
And after he placed hair into the envelope, what did he do with the envelope?
He sealed the envelope. I took custody of it. I placed it in a brown paper bag, sealed it with evidence tape, my initials and date.
I'm going to show you what's been previously marked as State's Exhibit number 30, and has previously been shown to the defense. Number 32, sorry. and ask if you recognize number 32. I'll take these from you.
Yes, I recognize it's my initials and date.
Okay, and what's contained within, excuse my back while I'm walking away, what's contained within number 32?
It's the hair sample of Dr. Severs.
And is that the hair sample you collected from the medical examiner staff?
Yes,
And is the packaging in substantially the same condition as it was when you packaged it?
yes,
Your Honor, this time the state would admit what's been previously marked as State's Exhibit number 32, and the evidence states 32.
No objection.
We'll show it admitted.
Bless you. Will you tender the witness?
Defense.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Ms. Martinez.
good morning.
You were not at the crime scene on Jarvis Road, correct?
No, I was not.
Okay. Your primary involvement was attending the autopsy.
That's correct.
Okay, there were several people in attendance in addition to your detective at that time. Jamie Nolan was present.
Yes,
The captain of the forensic unit at that time, Richard Joslin, he was present.
yes,
The medical examiner assistant, Sarah Norman, was also present.
that's correct.
Christine Jump,
Yes.
another crime scene technician,
Yes,
she was present. And of course, Dr. Coyne, the medical examiner.
yes,
Now, you told Mr. Hunter that you observed fibers in the alternative light source. Was that when you were able to see these fibers?
yes,
And you collected those fibers?
yes,
Fibers are cloth items that we pick up in our everyday life, is that correct?
fibers can be, cloth items.
Okay. So these would be items that a person might pick up sitting in a seat on an airline plane,
It can be picked up from anywhere.
off a car seat?
Yes,
Okay. Nothing further. Thank you, Ms. Martinez.
Is this witness to be released or retained?
She's free to go, Your Honor, thank you.
No objection.
No objection.
You're free to go. Thank you, ma'am. Next witness.
State calls Lieutenant Mike Downs.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Good morning. Would you please state your name for the record?
Lieutenant Michael Downs,
And where are you employed?
the Lee County Sheriff's Office.
And how long have you been so employed?
November will be 13 years.
And you indicated you're a lieutenant. I want to talk back in June of 2015. What was your assignment in 2015?
I was currently a detective in the Major Crimes Unit, assigned to homicide.
And as part of those duties, did you have occasion on June 29th to respond to 27034 Jarvis Road?
I did.
And about what time did you arrive?
I can't give a specific time. It was,
Was it still daylight outside?
it was.
And did you enter into the residence on Jarvis Road?
I did.
Did you take any precautionary measures before you entered into the residence?
Yeah, naturally, with any crime scene, you would wear gloves due to the nature of this crime scene. An initial op, you put on booties.
So did you have on gloves and booties before you entered the crime scene? what did you do? Did you do a walkthrough? When you entered the crime scene, what did you do?
Initially, upon responding to the crime scene, it's customary to do a walk through the scenes so that you know what you have. So my first action upon getting to the scene was briefing and then conducting a walkthrough.
Did you make any observations inside the house about the nature of, let me withdraw that question. Did you at some point while you were doing a walkthrough look at the side garage door?
I did.
And did you make any observations regarding that?
Yes.
And what observations did you make?
There was obvious pry marks on the door in between the top deadbolt and the primary locking mechanism.
And when you looked at those pry marks, did anything come to your mind?
Yes, initially upon looking at the pry marks and the location of the pry marks, it didn't seem to be consistent with the appropriate forced entry to go through that type of door.
And you indicated you walked through the house. Did the house look like, was there a time when you came to observe money in the house?
Yes.
And do you recall a particular amount of money that at some point you came to see?
All in all, and observations of currency at the crime scene, it was upwards of $40,000.
Did you participate in a neighborhood canvass?
I did.
Would you tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury what a neighborhood canvass is?
Yes. Basically, a neighborhood canvass is something that you do around any crime scene or any area to where there was something notable in an investigation. Basically, it just consists of going door to door, close to in proximity to the offense location, speaking with residents, and basically seeing if they heard or saw anything suspicious. And also, we try to get some what we call victimology, or background on our victim or suspect, depending on the circumstances in that particular case.
And during your participation in a neighborhood canvass, did you come across anyone who had seen anything around the time of the crime or heard anything?
No.
Were you fully involved around the clock initially in this particular case?
I was not.
Did there come a time a few days later where you reported to a dumpster to look at some computer equipment that had been tossed out?
There was.
And what was the location of that dumpster?
It was located at the Seavers Medical Practice in Estero.
Were those items recovered?
They were.
Did you recover them?
I did not.
Did someone from crime scene recover them?
They did.
Was your next involvement on July 9th?
Yes.
How did that come about?
I happened to be in the office working late. I was working another investigation. There were other investigators in the office that were assigned to this particular investigation. And it was brought to my attention that we had received, somebody had come forward saying that there was information in the investigation at hand.
And because it was at a phone call, did you end up the next day taking a plane to Illinois?
I did.
And did anyone else accompany you on that trip to Illinois?
Yes, my partner, Lieutenant David Levitt.
And when you arrived in Illinois, did you end up speaking with the person who had given the tip?
We did.
And after receiving information from that person, what did you do?
From there, the next day, we went to Hillsborough, Missouri.
And what did you do in Hillsborough, Missouri?
We had law enforcement in that jurisdiction.
And why did you go to Hillsborough, Missouri?
To conduct a search warrant.
What had Missouri been on anyone's radar in Lee County before you flew out to Illinois on July 9th?
No.
And was there any person of particular interest in Hillsborough, Missouri that led you down to Hillsborough, Missouri?
Not up to that point.
On July 9th on July 10th, after speaking with the person in Illinois, is there a reason Hillsborough, Missouri versus any other place in Missouri?
Yes,
And what was that reason?
to conduct a search warrant,
Where did you want to conduct a search?
subject's residence.
Now, you said, did you go talk to law enforcement in Hillsborough, Missouri?
We did,
And is that standard procedure?
yes.
Why do you do that? Why is that part of standard procedure?
It's twofold. First off, anytime you're in anybody else's jurisdiction, it's customary to notify them and let them know that you're there. Second off, given the circumstances in this case, that we are certified law enforcement officers in the state of Florida, we do not have the jurisdictional enforcement capabilities that they would in that jurisdiction. So their help is required for legal process and investigation, things of that nature.
And so did you go meet with local law enforcement in Hillsborough, Missouri?
Yes, we did.
Now, was the reason you went to Hillsborough,
Yes.
and how did you hear the name Curtis Wainwright?
It was in speaking with a witness.
So the person who had called initially on the 9th and who you flew out to meet used the name Curtis Wainwright,
Yes.
and that led you to Hillsborough, Missouri?
It did.
Had you ever heard of that name before you heard it spoken by this individual?
I had not.
And ultimately, was a search warrant conducted on the residence of Curtis Wainwright?
It was.
When was that search warrant conducted?
To my recollection, it was July 12th.
So on July 12th, a search warrant was conducted at that residence. Who executed the search warrant and collected anything from that search warrant?
We were assigned to Detective Nick Schoeneman, who is a certified law enforcement officer and also crime scene technician for the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office. He executed and processed the scene.
So Detective Schoeneman is both a sworn law enforcement officer and a crime scene technician. Is that what I'm hearing from you?
Yes.
And were you present while he was executing the search warrant and collecting any evidence?
I was.
While at that residence, was there also a vehicle at that residence that was searched? What kind of vehicle was that?
It was a silver, or it could be either way, silver or gray in color. There was
What was taken from that Hyundai Elantra?
a Garmin GPS unit.
And were those items that, so what was taken, let me rephrase that. And Your Honor, everything.
Yes, ma'am.
I want to show you what's been marked for identification as State's Exhibit Number 43. Tell me what State's Exhibit Number 43 is. Take a moment to look at it. What is State's Exhibit Number, what's contained in State's Exhibit Number 43?
A Garmin GPS unit.
And GPS unit, and did you then, was that Garmin packaged?
Yes, it was.
And did you then send it off to the Lee County Sheriff's Office? Meanwhile, after the to conduct an investigation in Missouri.
I did.
Now let's see, did you arrive in Missouri on July 10th?
Yes.
You come with,
No, not at that time.
when you flew out to Missouri, were you expecting for there to be any length of time for there to be an investigation?
Initially, I believe the trip was going to last no longer than 2 days.
Did there come a point, can you tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury, did there come a point when you ended up at the residence of Jimmy Ray Rogers and Taylor Showmaker?
I did.
And was anyone else there with you?
My partner, Lieutenant David Levy, was with me.
And how did you end up at the residence?
Initially, they had come up in information we received in the investigation, and we were going to make contact with them. It was basically just a cold contact.
When you say a cold contact and they come up in information, did you suspect them of anything at that point?
I did not.
So why were you going to go talk with them?
Given the circumstance, was appeared to be a friend of Mr. Wright. Therefore, in speaking with him, we could get possibly background on Mr. Wright, possibly a statement as to his whereabouts, with any discrepancies we may have learned in the investigation.
So you went to see Mr. Rogers to see if he could provide you any information about Mr. Wright, who right then was the focus of your investigation?
Yes.
And that was because you looked at it might be the potential that Mr. Rogers was a friend and might be able to provide additional information.
Yes.
Were you looking for any confirmation of whether Mr. Wright had been in Missouri during the weekend of June 27th?
Yes.
And was that one of your questions you asked Mr. Rogers with him? Rogers able to where Curtis Wayne had been the weekend of June 27th?
He was not.
Let's just step back for a moment. When you first got to Jimmy Ray Rogers' residence, was he there?
He was not.
Who was there?
At that time, it was his live-in girlfriend, Taylor Showmaker.
Did you speak with Taylor?
He did.
About how long after you were talking with Taylor Showmaker?
I can't say specifically, but it was a short time after our arrival.
So it was a short time, 5 minutes, an hour? I mean, everybody has a different definition of a short time. Can you give us a range of time?
I would say several minutes before he arrived back there.
So definitely less than an hour. Did Jimmy Ray Rogers indicate whether he was in town the weekend of June 27th? Did he indicate whether or not he'd been to Florida the weekend of June 27th?
He stated that he had not been to Florida.
Did there come a time when you left Missouri and returned back to Lee County?
Yes.
So on that first trip, about how long did it last?
Approximately 12 days.
Now that was in July. Did you make a second trip to Missouri?
I returned in September.
So did you return in August to Missouri?
I apologize. Yes.
And when
there were further developments in the investigation in which required further investigation.
Were there any particular information that was developed from Lee County? Were there any particular devices used or any particular devices downloaded that provided and what were those devices?
Particularly the Garmin GPS unit.
And had you also by that point been able to of Curtis Wayne Wright done an extraction on it or downloaded so that you had more information about what was in that phone?
We did.
Now, when back the second time,
I was.
and was Nick Schooneman present for that? Deputy Detective Dick Schooneman.
He was.
Was anyone else present?
Yes, it was Sergeant Levitt.
And were a number of items seized from that residence during that? And did you ultimately take custody of those items and send them to the Lee County Sheriff's Office?
I did.
I'm going to show you what has been marked for identification as States Exhibits 39, 40, 41, 42, and 50.
that appears to be a white cooler.
And did you then take custody of it to send to the Lee County Sheriff's Office?
I did.
So let me hand you to mark the state's exhibit number 2.
They appear to be black, white, and green tennis shoes.
And did you, and was that him for, and send it to the Lee County Sheriff's Office?
I did.
I'm also going to show you State's Exhibit 41. Well, we'll do one.
It appears to.
And did Detective Schooneman take custody? Did Detective Schooneman seize that?
He did.
And did he package it?
He did.
And did you take custody of it?
I did.
And did you ship it to the Lee County Sheriff's Office?
I did.
Let me also. What is State's Exhibit number 39?
Excuse me one moment, I'm sorry. It appears to be a red in color.
By Detective Schooneman.
Yes,
And did he package it?
he did.
And did you take custody of it and forward it to the Lee County Sheriff's Office?
I did.
State's Exhibit number, what did I just hand you? 50, what did I just hand you as a State's Exhibit number, if you would just turn it over?
Oh, now, I'm sorry, I thought you meant prior. This is 50.
50. State's Exhibit number 50, what is State's Exhibit number 50? And was that recovered from the residence of Jimmy Ray Rogers?
It was.
And did Detective Schooneman recover that item?
He did.
And did you take it from him into custody?
I did.
And did you ship it to the Lee County Sheriff's Office?
Yes.
And finally, State's Exhibit 41. What is State's Exhibit number 41?
It appears to be an additional white wicking t-shirt.
And was that seized from Jimmy Ray Rogers' residence
It was.
by Detective Schooneman? Thank you.
Oops. Sorry.
The search warrant, or after the search warrant was executed at the residence of Jimmy Ray Rogers, did you come to speak with Taylor Showmaker?
I did.
And did she end up making a statement to law enforcement?
She did.
And was that statement to you?
Yes.
Was anyone else present?
At the time of my statement with her, no.
And was it recorded?
It was.
And after that statement, did you and at that time Detective Levitt make a trip down to the Doe Run area?
We did.
And were you going down there looking for anything in particular?
At the time that we went to,
Were you looking for anything else on the side of the road?
yes,
Had Taylor Showmaker provided you information about where certain items might be found?
she did.
Objection, Your Honor.
I'm going to hand you 7A, 37B, 37C, and 37D. First, generally look at them, and then I'll ask questions about each one.
be a blue jumpsuit.
Do you recognize those photographs?
I do.
And were you there in the location where those from
Highway 47 East in the area of Cadet, Missouri.
And are those fair and accurate photos from the area?
Yes. Yes, I believe it was August 25th.
Move to introduce.
No objection. Show them embedded. What are the numbers again?
37A, 37C, and 37.
You may.
With the court's permission, if I might.
Them up, whatever your pleasure is.
If I could hold them up, then Lieutenant Downs could describe what they're seeing.
Sure, and if council needs to move around to see what he's describing or pointing at, by all means, you may.
37A. What are we looking at in 37A?
Oh, I'm sorry. You want me to?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
The jury doesn't know.
It's
And is that the road you were talking about?
yes. 37B. What are we looking at in 37B? That is a.
Are these two road pictures going from different directions or the same direction? In other words, am I standing in one point and looking one way, then looking the other?
It's approaching from one direction.
C. 37C. What are the ladies and gentlemen of the jury seeing in 37C?
It's just documenting a closer picture approaching the item.
And when you think the item, what are we talking about?
The blue jumpsuit. That is a close-up picture of the blue jumpsuit.
And this was the blue jumpsuit that you recovered from the side of the road?
Yes.
And you were on a road to Cadet, Missouri, is that what you're saying? Is that what you just testified to? Where?
This is Highway 50.
Did you recover, I'm going to show you what's been marked for identification as State's Exhibit number 51. This has all previously been shown. What is State's Exhibit number 51?
Sure.
looking at State's Exhibit, the blue jumpsuit you recovered from the side of the road.
Yes.
If you move to introduce State's Exhibit error, Your Honor, this is State's Exhibit number 51.
We'll show it admitted.
And I think there are gloves up there if you need them.
Oh, okay.
Are there scissors there, or do I need?
Yeah, this will work.
Thank you.
Okay. Oh, thank you.
If you would remove the item that is contained in the box that is labeled State's Exhibit 51. Is there stuff that's full of that?
There is.
What's
There's
falling?
Foliage, rotary, grass, dirt.
Is this how you found this jumpsuit when you took it into your custody on the side of the road in Cadet, Missouri?
Yes.
Is it in parts? Did I see you lift out a second part?
There's two other at a time. And also another piece.
You can just put it back in the box. Thank you. Was that jumpsuit sent initially? While you were on the side of the road up there in Cadet, Missouri, were you looking for anything else?
In addition to the suit,
Yes.
yes, we're also looking for blue latex gloves.
And were you looking for anything else? Did you find any blue latex gloves?
I did not.
Were you looking for anything else?
We were
Let's back up for a moment. You're out in Cadet, Missouri on the side of a road. Did you just randomly go to a Google map and say, I want to go to Cadet, Missouri and look on the side of this road for something?
no.
So you had a reason for going to that road in Cadet, Missouri on that day.
Yes,
Was Taylor Showmaker that day?
she was.
Had Taylor Showmaker provided you information about the possibility of certain items being found on that road? For instance, I missed your jumpsuit on the side of the road, in the road area in which you were looking.
Yes.
And is that why you were on that road in Cadet, Missouri, looking around to see what you might find?
Yes.
Had she also told you about a phone when she was speaking with you?
She did.
While you were out there, were you looking to see if you might find any parts of a phone?
Not at that particular time.
Did you look elsewhere for?
We looked for parts of the phone.
And did there come a time when you found parts of a phone?
There was.
I want to show you what's been previously marked as States Exhibits 30A and 30. I mean, tell me what 38A and 38B are.
Appears to be a gray in color plastic Alcatel cell phone case. Item 38B appears to be a black and clear plastic AT&T cell phone face.
Did you recover those items from the side of the road?
I did.
When did you recover those?
It was, I believe it to be August 26th.
And was anyone with you when you recovered those items from the side of the road?
Yes.
Who was with you?
Taylor Showmaker and Lieutenant David Levitt.
And what? You're walking down the side of a road. Are you picking up everything you see on the side of the road? Or were you looking for specific items?
At them looking for a specific item.
And why did you pick up these two pieces of a broken cell phone?
They appeared to be parts of an item that I had been looking for.
And why had you been looking for that item?
Objection, Judge, hearsay.
Overruled.
We had been notified that the item may be in that area.
And did Taylor Showmaker provide you information that led you to think there might be broken parts of the cell phone in that area?
Objection, here.
Overruled.
A and B.
Object, Judge.
I'm sorry?
Objection.
Noted for the record, overruled. We'll show them admitted.
Thank you. Would you owe them to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury and open them one at a time? So let's start with 38A.
This is item 38A.
Can you hold it up so the ladies and gentlemen of the jury can see it? Can you briefly describe what it is, or what it appears to be? Is that the back of a phone case, the front?
To me, this appears to be the back of a cell phone.
Do that exhibit bag and open the exhibit bag, please. And if you would hold it up so the ladies and gentlemen of the jury can see it. And what does that appear to be?
This appears to be the clear face of the front of a cell phone.
And did you take those and did you also have those shipped to the Lee County Sheriff's Office?
I did.
Now, when you went to the I'm going to start with this one photo so that I give you. I'm going to start with this one. you what's been marked for identification as 30A. Can you tell me?
This appears to be a photograph of the dough run facility.
Is that how the dough run is?
To the facility image.
I know you're.
We'll show it admitted.
Permission to publish.
You may.
How far is this facility from where you found the blue jumpsuit? Are we talking miles? Are we talking in a different county? What are?
It was within the, from that location, it was in the proximity of a mile roadway.
So the roadway we were looking at when we were looking at.
I can't say offhand.
Okay. I just asked you to look for them briefly and just tell me generally what those are. Generally, are those done?
Yes.
Were those photographs that were taken the day that you went to the dough run facility and walked through the dough run facility?
They were.
In fact, I think, are you in one of those photos?
That appears to be me.
And do these photos give a fair and accurate sense of how that facility looked on the inside?
Yes.
We'll show them introduced.
Thank
Admitted.
State 36B.
Appears to be a hallway within the